Hey, everybody. Hammer and Nail Show. We are back after taking a week off last week. We're back with a new show tonight. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm Jack Hammer. Got my co-host over here, Jessie Naylor. How you doing tonight, Jessie?
I'm doing fantastic, Jack. 1 week away feels like a month. I am so happy to be back. I enjoyed vacation, but I feel like I missed out on so dang much. So, very happy to be back.
Yeah, definitely. It was you picked a good time because it was kind of a quiet time, but at the same time, there was still stuff happening. That's just the way the nature of the beast with the NFL, right? It just kind of continues going and going and going.
Yeah,
But
it was quiet for the most part, but day one, Fred Warner resigned. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I not here for this?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he had the Fred Warner thing, and yeah, all kind. But now we're back. We're two days into training camp now, which is exciting. We finally have a lot of stuff to talk about,
Yeah.
and I know we want to definitely hit on that in tonight's show. That's really our focus. But just wanted to start off tonight because we had a lot of fun over the last week. I got hooked up with the Santa Rosa Press Democrat to host the Inside the 49ers blog over there, and you're making hits on 95.7 The Game talking 49ers. So kind of a big week here between the two of us.
Yeah, man. That first of all, you and I had some chats, and I didn't know all the details of what you had working on and what you were going after, but I knew that you were working on some big things over there. And so when I came back and found out that you had landed that spot with the Press Democrat, you're getting some press access. That's fantastic, man. I'm so happy for you. It's well deserved, and even more excited that it sounds like you'll still be able to continue to write for 49ers. All 49ers Sports Illustrated. I think that's a great thing. It means we're still a part of the same team. And, I'm just very happy for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll definitely be part of the same team for, there's those guys, that whole group over there, you and, all the guys over there, great group of guys, a lot of fun to work with. So definitely going to keep that relationship there for sure. Because,
Absolutely.
again, just too much fun there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, I'll be at practice tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to getting out there and getting a chance to watch them. I'll be there with my little press pass for the first time. It's going to be kind of crazy to get out there and be standing on the field. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, but we started off training camp here first day one, and right out of the bat we had some big news and good news. I'm going to try this little ticker here for the first time. I'm trying to get a little extra fancy over here with trying to keep up with you guys.
Looking snazzy over there. I like it.
We had the big news here: Nick Bosa, D4, Jalen Hurd, all passing their physicals. That's a huge. I think that was huge news for the 49ers.
Yeah, that's definitely huge news. I mean, really the one that surprised me the most was D Ford. I did not expect it. And you still hear Lynch saying that they're cautiously optimistic. And so, yeah, I mean, am I expecting a ton from D Ford? No, not necessarily. But the fact that he's healthy this early into training camp and able to do one-on-one drills, even cited doing some of the team stuff, just a little bit, nothing crazy. I think that's fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, all three of these guys being healthy, really the whole team for the most part, just being healthy overall at this point is very encouraging. And let's hope that we can keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of with you on the Bosa news. I think everybody was kind of assuming that he was going to be ready to go,
Yeah.
just by some of the things that we've been hearing and whatnot. But the D4 news I think was really took people by surprise. I think we were all pretty much writing him off based off of everything we'd been hearing. So
Yeah.
the fact that he's healthy and actually participating in practices is crazy, and could be playing, pay off huge dividends for the team. And then kind of the same thing with Jalen Hurd. I know personally myself, I wasn't expecting to see him on the field this quickly, and he's out there working, even with what he's doing with the team. I was thinking they'd have him over on the side field or something like that, but he's actually working with the receivers. And when you start looking at the things that they can do with D Ford if he's healthy, and Jalen Hurd and the way that they could impact the roster, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen, this 2019 defensive line was full of monsters, but D Ford was really the piece that made it tick. And you saw that when he went out for multiple games during that season. Bosa's production slowed down a lot. The defensive line was not very dominant when he was gone. And, I'm not saying he's the best player on that D line, but he certainly arguably could be the most important as far as making it go to the next level. based off of what happened when he was in and not in 2019. So that right there is the one that I'm most excited about, but I'm going to temper expectations because you just never know, right? And neck
Mhm.
slash back, that's not anything to play with. And you can tell when Shanahan and Lynch talk about it, they also are a bit concerned, but excited that he's back. So, that for me is the biggest thing. Listen, Jalen Hurd, a lot of talent there. There's a reason why he was drafted as high as he was by the 49ers. The talent level certainly is there, but you are now in year 3. You have not taken a professional snap. Even if he is healthy, I don't know what to expect from him. I fully expect that Sanu is going to be that slot receiver. I think Jennings is going to be the backup, and maybe Hurd can at least earn a spot on this roster and ultimately show that he, for the long haul, can be that slot receiver. But early on, I don't expect a lot from him. Just happy he's healthy, and hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah. And on the D Ford thing, I agree with you. I think you have to look at it as if they get anything out of D Ford, it's just kind of gravy on top of everything else,
Yep.
right? It's not something that you really expect, but that's kind of what makes it exciting, because if he can do it, then just when you start to look at all the different combinations that they can put together on the defensive line, it gets pretty wild, especially I don't know if you heard the press conference today, but D'Amico Ryans was talking about using Samson Ebukam. He's strictly a defensive end, strictly a weak side defensive end as well. And so really what that kind of means is you can almost create a situation where you're going to have D Ford on one side, you're going to have Samson, Ebukam on the other side, and then you slide a guy like Nick Bosa down into the interior next to Eric Armstead. That would be just a massively fast and powerful defensive front, in certain situations. So
Absolutely.
lots of fun things.
Yeah, let me ask you this too, because without D Ford, would you agree that this defensive line is, let's say, 5th to 7th best in the NFL?
I would say they're top 10 without D Ford, right? I think they're about a top 10. But I think your question is, where do I put them with D Ford, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I put them in the top 10 without him. But with D Ford, I think they're in the top 3, maybe even challenging for the best. If he's able to play, close to what he played in 2019. I'm not even necessarily expecting him to come out right away and even play as many snaps as he did then. But just give him 10 or 15 snaps a game. If you can do that, that's a big jump, big boost for them.
Listen, if he stays healthy all season and kind of like what you said, let's say he plays 35% of the snaps, I'm cool with that. Like that makes this defensive line very explosive. And I'm with you. It goes from, really, in my mind, that 5 to 7 range, probably closer to that 7 range, to arguably the best defensive line in football if he's healthy. So that's the difference that we're talking. And 2019, the identity was that defensive line. If Ford is healthy, the identity again will be that defensive line. If he's not healthy, they're going to have to find a different identity for this team.
Yep, I agree. And then, really quick on the Jalen Hurd piece too. I know we haven't really seen him since 2018, but what we did see of him, and what I think the 49ers see in him, is they're looking to him as being a guy that's like Deebo Samuel, but bigger. He's not going to necessarily be utilized in the running back position or in the screen game as much as what they do with Deebo, but he'd be utilized in multiple roles where he can be spread out wide as a receiver. He can line up in the slot and basically almost be like your second or third tight end on the field, and just a powerful guy. So he looks a little bit thinner than what I remember him.
Yeah, he does.
Maybe that's it could be because he doesn't have his pads on yet, right? And he's been working out a lot, so maybe he's lost a little bit of weight. That's a question we should find out, see if he's maybe a little bit slimmer than he used to be.
Yeah,
but
he definitely.
I'm looking forward to
see it in his lower extremities. He looks a lot thinner.
Yeah, he does, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does on the field. See where if he pans out. I had him in my 53-man roster prediction that I put out. So, when I found out that he was playing, I had to make a bunch of adjustments. Same with D Ford. So, real quick before we move on, Monica had a question. She was asking which day is it that practice begins? Is it the second? And I believe it is the second, because Kyle Shanahan
Third,
on
isn't it Tuesday?
whatever day Tuesday is.
Third, I
That's the
think
day
that's
that.
the third. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be next Tuesday because he was saying that there's going to be 5 practices before the first padded practice. So Saturday will be day 4, Monday's day 5, so day 6 would be Tuesday. So that's the day right there, Monica.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so
There's
it's
a lot of chat in here about Kinlaw, and I think I think that on Grant's show I might have stirred up a little something with him talking about arthritis in the knee. Listen, I want to be clear about this. I don't know for sure that he's got arthritis in his knee, but everything that I know with how the knee operates and what I've personally gone through, what I've seen from a lot of athletes in the past, and based off of his pre-draft diagnosis where multiple teams shied away from him because they felt like his knees had a potential to be arthritic with a lot of tendonitis, swelling while you're flying, scopes and cleanups. I believe if that knee is not arthritic, it probably will be very soon. And, arthritis, it sounds like a crazy thing, but ultimately all arthritis is damage to the meniscus and damage to the cartilage that causes fraying, tearing, and takes away the cushion between your bones. That's ultimately what arthritis is in a nutshell. And when you have all of those things going on, that tells me that he technically has arthritis. And over time, when you're that big, you're that physical, you're that strong, listen, that's not a good thing. And it is very worrisome. It's worrisome that they have to keep him limited in practice based off of a flight he took a couple weeks ago because it swelled up on him once he reached elevation. It's not good. It's definitely not good. I know, and I love what did Monica say up here? She said, did you watch Ryan, aka Beast Rider? He says the opposite about Kinlaw, and Kinlaw told him he is his biggest inspiration. I'm assuming that you're saying that Kinlaw said he was healthy. He's totally fine. I don't know what you mean by that, but Beast Rider is amazing. He has a lot of inside information. But if I'm Kinlaw, I'm telling everybody that I'm healthy. Why would I say otherwise? It doesn't behoove me to get it out in the atmosphere that I'm not healthy, right? So, take that for what it is, but I'm certainly worried about what he has going on with his knees. To me, it sounds like early stages of arthritis, which eventually leads to bone on bone and very quick in an athlete that is that big and that explosive. So that's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, this kind of led into something we were going to talk about anyway, was the Javon Kinlaw injury, and you're right. I don't know about the arthritis piece, but it's definitely something that should be worrisome to everybody because he that was something that was flagged. His knee was flagged during the combine as having tendonitis. That was something that was an issue back then. Could have been part of the reason why he fell down to where the 49ers ended up selecting him. So it's definitely, and for him, he missed time last year, right? He missed time because of his knee last year. He missed the last few games of the season as well. And now he's not full go in practice because of it, and I know where Ryan Sakamoto is going with this one because he had a little bit of beef last year with Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw didn't like what he was saying. And so basically what Ryan said was, hey, I'm just your biggest inspiration. I'm over here trying to pump you up. I believe in you, and I think you can be the best. I think you can be better and improve. So I believe in you. I don't know why you're angry at me, kind of thing. So it's a good deal. I think with Kinlaw, though, you need to be worried about his knees, and he needs to be practicing. That's the biggest thing. He needs to be able to be a full go in practice all the way because this is the guy who, quite frankly, doesn't have a lot of moves when it comes to becoming, as a pass rusher. Mm-hmm. And you got to be worried if he's not getting that extra reps in to really build those things up right now. So it's definitely something that should be looked at as a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's no report that says that his knees are arthritic. This is just me making assumptions based off of what I know, what I've experienced, what I've seen other athletes experience. And, until we hear it for sure, I guess we won't know. But listen, the 49ers aren't going to readily leak that. There's no reason for them to. I just think the writing's on the wall, and I believe that he's got arthritis in there. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. That's let's see, what else were we going to chat about tonight? I know we got a bunch of things, and there's one of the topics that came up out of the press conference on Tuesday that caught a lot of people's ears was when Kyle Shanahan said that there's no quarterback competition. That Jimmy Garoppolo is the starting quarterback. He's the best quarterback on the roster, and so on and so forth. So just wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit, and I'll let you get started here and get your thoughts on that whole thing.
Okay, so I have to admit that was my first day getting access back to Twitter. I'm just getting back into reception, and I'm trying to catch up on everything. And so really what I had read was those two quotes where it basically sounds like, hey, there's no QB competition. Jimmy's our guy. That's who we're riding with. That's what we're rolling with. Then later in the night, I have a chance to actually sit down and listen to the press conference. And I took the exact opposite from that whole thing. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but there were a lot of quotes. In fact, let me try to pull up a couple and see if I've got them written down still, because this told me that there is a competition. So the two quotes that you heard surfacing online were, Jimmy is our best quarterback in the building right now. We will start training camp that way. Okay. So again, he's not speaking in absolutes. He's saying right now, that's how we're going to start training camp. All right. Fair enough. I don't think anybody expected anything different. The next thing he said was, and this is again after being pressed by Mayoko and trying to get a straight answer, basically asking, hey, are they going to be 1-2? What does it look like? And he says, there is not an open competition right now in terms of getting equal reps with the same group. Jimmy is coming in as the 1 and Trey is the 2. Again, that doesn't tell me anything. That's exactly what we expected. So those are the two quotes that everybody ran with. But then when you look at it, the biggest quote that stood out to me was somebody asked about rookie quarterbacks not winning Super Bowls and if that's something he takes into account. And he says, that doesn't enter my mind at all. I'm just looking at our situation. Who gives you the best chance to win? I told Jimmy that if he is on top of his game, no rookie will take his job. What I've seen so far is he is getting there. It was early. That was OTAs. We will see how training camp goes, and we will deal with it accordingly. That tells me there's a full-on competition battle.
Yeah, I have a little bit different take on it. It's not a lot different than what you have, but when you hear the term quarterback competition, for me, I've got to say that I don't think there's a competition between these guys. Aren't competing. This is all about Trey Lance. You don't make the trade that they did without the expectation that Trey Lance is going to be your guy. And when you go back and you listen to what Kyle Shanahan said on Tuesday, it matches up exactly with what he said right after OTAs. He did an interview with Tim Kawakami right after OTAs. And at that point, he made a comment about how I think Kawakami might have asked him if he was open to starting a rookie. And he basically said, it's up to Trey Lance. I don't have a problem with starting a rookie. I'm going to play the best player available. And if it's Trey Lance, Trey's going to be the starter. And that's one of the things that I've kind of been talking about throughout, since the OTA period, is that I think that eventually Lance is going to be the starter, and I expect him to possibly win the job before week 1. He's the guy that I prefer to see him win that job. And what Shanahan said on Monday is the same exact thing. Right now, Jimmy Garoppolo is the best quarterback in the building. I haven't seen Trey Lance for 40 days. Don't know anything about where he is. We're going to get out there and we're going to play. And throughout his answers to questions, he said, look, we're going to play the best players available. And again, there's not a quarterback controversy. If Trey Lance is the best quarterback, he's going to be the starter. Even if they're close, I think he's going to be the starter. And I think the 49ers are playing this really, really well with the way that they're setting this up.
Yeah, and I think that this should be expected, right? Like at this point, there is a good backup option, right? Let's think about it like this. Going into 2020, it was Jimmy G, and then your next best option is Nick Mullins, okay? So you're going to do everything you can to try to make Jimmy G, I don't know, I guess get him motivated, right? But at the same time, like you're going to show your frustration because if that quarterback doesn't perform, then that's your season, that's your livelihood. You don't have a better option. Well, now
Hmm.
it's like they possibly do have a better option. And with that being said, there's no reason to talk bad about Jimmy. Like this could be somebody you might need to trade, and he's not your future. He's not your franchise. There's nothing to motivate. There's nothing to get frustrated about because you have an option in Trey Lance waiting right there. So yeah, they're doing exactly what they should do as an organization. And now is not the time to down talk Jimmy if you're Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch. This is the time to pump up Jimmy because you still are looking to get something for Jimmy eventually, whether it's now, midseason, end of year, whatever. At some point, you're going to want to try to get some sort of something back, right? You traded a second rounder for him. If you can get a fourth, a third, a first, whatever that is, you're going to try to build his value. So this doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, exactly. 100% on that. You got to build. You want to build up his value. I agree with you when it comes to, they're in a better situation with their quarterback room. If Garoppolo starts week one and gets hurt or whatever, that's actually a worst case scenario when it comes to salary cap stuff. But
Of course.
they're in a better situation. They're in a better situation. I don't think there's the separation between Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins isn't quite as big as a lot of people even made last year. I mean, there's a separation. There's a reason why one guy is the starter and the other guy's the backup. But it wasn't like a huge gap between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and this year, I think you've got two guys that right now, based off of what we're hearing from reports, is these guys are playing at the same level. Maybe even one playing a little bit better than the other, depending on who you listen to. So, I definitely think the fact that Lance is even close to Garoppolo already in terms of uh, what they're doing in practice is really playing into to what Shanahan's decision is going to become week one.
I think it, listen, I'm not there, so I can't say for sure. But based off of what I'm seeing, based off of what I'm hearing, it sounds to me like Lance is already playing slightly better than Jimmy. So the numbers from what I gather in 2 days in practice are Lance is 14 of 20, but four of those incompletions are on the wide receivers. And Jimmy is 15 of 22. All right. It also sounds like he's had some errant passes that easily could have been intercepted. These are things that Jimmy does. This is why Shanahan is moving on from him because he does not protect the ball. Despite the injuries, we can talk about all that, but really it's more so his play and he cannot be trusted. So if Lance is protecting the ball, he's completing just as many passes, he's getting almost as many reps, and he hasn't even used his legs to run yet. Listen, Lance is going to be the starter week one. Can we just all agree on that right now?
I think it's trending that way. And the one thing that I heard, I know we get our reports, and the one thing that really caught my attention was what Mike McDaniel said about Trey Lance today. Was that basically what he said is you can tell he's been able to focus more on the nuts and bolts of the position because he's getting familiar with the foreign language that was just introduced to him a couple months ago. And so really what that's saying is he's already he's already ahead of the game mentally. He's already gotten that down. He understands the playbooks, and now it's just refining everything and fine tuning, the game. And if he's already at that point, and we're still have almost 7 weeks, I think, before we get to week one, it's going to be there's a lot of practice here, and there's going to be ups and downs, but I think it's just going to be continuing to go up with him, and it's going to be fun to watch. And I know you came out really early saying he was going to be the week one starter, and I've been along there saying that I want him to be. So that's going to be great to see what happens. It's great for the team. They're in a great position right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's three things that I want to say that showed up in some of the videos that I've seen that are things that probably aren't going to get a lot of hype or a lot of talking about, but I think like it deserves to be talked about a little bit. One was seeing him hype up the crowd the way that he did before practice. Like that's a leadership thing, right? Like that's him getting the fans excited. That's showing just a bit of leadership that, you want a young quarterback to show. 2, I saw him make not a mistake, I guess, but yeah, we'll call it a mistake. He made a mistake in one of the drills. He got coached up on it and ran it right back and did it properly immediately. So that shows a quick learning curve. And 3, I don't know if people are really paying attention to this, but I caught it multiple times. He's taking extra reps in practice. Like he's stealing reps from other people, meaning he'll go, it's not his turn, but then he'll go again. Like he's just inserting himself into as many reps as possible. And even I want to say Shanahan alluded to it yesterday, and then I saw it again today during drills, saying that, oh, well, he actually took one of the reps away from Rosen. It wasn't supposed to be his rep, but he stayed in there and nobody caught it. He's doing that on purpose. He's doing whatever he can to insert himself to make sure he gets as much practice and as much prep as possible so that he can be ready for things. So just some little snap judgments that I'm seeing that I'm making on the fly, but things that I think ultimately it's these little wins and these little things that lead up to him being the best player that he can be.
Yeah, I know that Shanahan mentioned that yesterday night. That's a great point. He's just going and going and going until he's forcing him to pull him out. Right? He's not paying attention to what rep he's on, and that's good stuff. That's really what you want to see. And yeah, the one thing that I noticed when I've been watching the videos is just watch his feet. His feet are so fast. They are so quick. And I'm not talking about running. I'm talking about the drill that they're doing where, they're in shotgun, they get the ball and they draw it back, and then the coach is having them move left, right, back, forth, and all that kind of stuff. And his feet are just so fast compared to everybody else's. Just look how quick they're getting up and down, and then planting and throwing. And so, again, that's where he's ahead of the game. I will say one thing that I saw yesterday out of Jimmy Garoppolo that I did like was typically when he rolls to his left, you'll see him flip his hips open and kind of stop attacking the line of scrimmage before he throws. Mm-hmm. And at least on the one play on the video that I saw, you see him run the play action, then he boots out, and he actually is attacking the line of scrimmage when he throws the ball, and he puts a nice, I know the receivers, stop, but he gets the ball where it's supposed to be. That was something that I hadn't seen from him that I liked as well. So I thought that was a nice little, bonus over on the side for Garoppolo. It's all going to be fun to watch this play out.
Yeah, I'll say this too. The better Jimmy plays, the better it is for everybody, because if people see him play well, obviously that boosts his trade value. But if everybody knows that he's playing at the best of his ability, and that's all that we're hearing, this is the best Jimmy's ever been, this is the best he is. Listen, if Trey beats the best Jimmy out, like that's a win for the organization as well. Now there's no question from any fans. There's no question from the players. If they see Jimmy at his best and it's still not good enough, that's all you need to know about how good Trey Lance is right now and is eventually going to be. And I'm just really excited to see this non-competition play out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm right there with you. And then one of the commenters over here, Gavin over in Wales, this guy, he stayed up. I don't know, Jesse, while you were gone, I was doing my, my call-in show, my Nighter Chatter show on Tuesday last week. And this guy stayed up. It's like, 2:00 in the morning over there when we start. And he stayed up and we went for almost 3 hours, and he was up the whole time. I'm going to turn the guy into an insomniac by making him stay up on those Tuesday night shows. But he says here that the early signs show Mike McGlinchey is coming out firing this season. I just want to say I called it right now. Yep, and the first couple practices here, I know they're non-padded, but it seems like he's been doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Gavin's a diehard, man. That guy's a G.
yeah, he sure is. I will say the one thing, I don't know if you guys have seen the picture of Mike McGlinchey walking into training camp, but I'll tweet this out later on tonight. He actually has a shirt on with the logo that is on my. With the old 49ers logo, the one that I use for my YouTube channel here. So I'm going to I'm not giving you any props, Gavin. It's going to be me because he's using he stole my logo and he's using the old time 49ers for his shirt on the way into practice.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's go on. The next one was, there's Xavier Howard's an all-pro cornerback over at the Miami Dolphins, and he's requested a trade that came out earlier this week. He put in his formal trade request. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that? I know you wrote an article for SI on this.
Yeah, and you wrote an article for the Press Democrat, right?
I did.
Okay. So yeah, my thought is it's a multiple prong approach here. Should they go after him? Yes. The next one is, can they get him feasibly? And I think the answer is also yes. And obviously, if they get rid of Jimmy, they have the most salary cap space in the NFL, so they can afford really anybody. Okay. So that's one. Two, they don't even necessarily have to get rid of Jimmy to make it work. It would be harder to do, but it is a possibility with reworking a contract. And so the next thing that I look at is, what is his trade value? And I know that people want to say he's, a top two, top three corner in the league. I disagree with that, and I also think that most executives would disagree with that. In my opinion, he's probably in that 5 to 7 range. Still very, very good. He was a first team All Pro last year. That's amazing. But what is the most comparable thing that we've seen recently to him? And that would be Darius Slay. Darius Slay was 29 last year. Howard is 28. Darius Slay was coming off of 3 Pro Bowl appearances. Xavier Howard has had 2 Pro Bowl appearances in his last 3 seasons. And Slay had a first-team All-Pro appearance in 2017. And Xavier Howard had his first-team All-Pro appearance last year. So you're talking about 2 very similar players as far as production. You're talking about 2 similar players as far as age. And Darius Slay went for a 3rd and a 5th. That tells me that Howard can be had for a 2nd and a 4th. I don't believe this is a situation where you have to give up multiple first rounders like happened with Jalen Ramsey. And I believe that because of the situation that he's put the Dolphins in, making it public, demanding more money, and doing it at this time of the year, they are not going to get a first rounder for him. I really believe that. So yes, I say go all in for Xavier Howard, especially because the biggest concern on this team, not only this year, but going forward, is the cornerback depth and that position overall. So I say if you can get Howard, you do everything within your power to make that happen.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I know I went a little bit different, and I think maybe a 2nd and a 5th would be good enough to be able to bring him over. I think that would do the trick, and the fact that the 49ers don't have a first round draft pick, so giving up a 2nd round pick for Xavier Howard is a little risky, because that means you're not going to have a first round pick until a pick until round 3 of the draft next year. But as I put in my article today, you could possibly recoup that up, right? If you were able to get a 2nd round pick for Garoppolo, if he goes out and shows that he's able to do it, or somebody gets hurt, or who knows what it is, right? There's a possibility that they might be able to get that at the end of the day. Who knows? Even if they get a 3rd, maybe you take your 2/3 and trade them up into the 2nd round, what have you. So yeah, it's a deal that I think they need to take a look at. Especially when you look at the secondary depth at the cornerback, like you mentioned, you've got Jason Verrett, who's never played had double-digit starts in his career in back-to-back seasons. He's played, he had 1 season with the Chargers where he had 13 starts. The next year, I think he had 2 or 3, and then last year with the 49ers when he had 13. Those are the only times that he's done it. So do you really feel really comfortable with him being your starting cornerback for the whole year? And then on the other side, you've got Emmanuel Mosley is the one who's slated to be the starter there. He's missing time because he's on the COVID-19 protocol reserve list. And on top of that, he's never played even 600 snaps in a season, which would be about 2/3 of the snaps, I believe. Usually around 1,000 or somewhere around there is what you'd expect. And he's never been able to do that. He was hurt in 2018 right away when he first started playing. He got hurt last year when he was expected to be a starter. So your depth isn't all that great. I understand that you just invested in draft picks for Ambry Thomas and Diamondor Lenore, but you have an ability to possibly get an All-Pro at that spot, and that really bolsters your team, and that allows you to have a great competition now between him and the other guys for that spot across from Verrett, or even have him compete with Verrett, what have you, right? You have a lot of depth and a lot of players that could potentially make things happen, and I think that's really important and something that they should go after.
And Pinor brings up a great point, and this is what I said in the article, is that chances are you're probably going to use that second round pick on a corner anyways, because you've got Verrett that's going to be a free agent. You've got Mosley, who really they have an out after year one in that contract from the way that it was written. You've got Kwan Williams, who's going to be a free agent, and Verrett and Kwan are going to be 30 and older. So chances are you're most likely going to use that second round pick on a corner anyways. So why not use it to get one of the better corners in the game, one of the more proven corners? And as Ekim says, I believe that's Korean 49er, I could be wrong. He says there's no guarantee that you're going to get a dominant second round cornerback in the draft anyways. So with that being said, use it and get a dominant corner if you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Korean 49er Ekim that he knows. Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point that Piner made. That's something that I should have thought about when I was writing my article on that this morning, was to throw that piece in there, because that's a really good point. It makes a lot of sense. That's a really good point. Another thing, this isn't on the we hadn't really discussed this, but I'm going to just throw this out here now because it's something that came up today that I think people are mentioning it in the comments. I saw some folks mention this on Twitter today, but you've got a few 49ers who showed up today for their press conference with masks on. Mm-hmm. They were obviously asked a question about if they'd been vaccinated or not, and they both didn't answer. They said they're looking for more information, and that's fine. But I think it kind of gives us an idea that maybe they're not. I don't know if you wanted to maybe touch on this a little bit as far as what maybe some of the concerns could be around the fact that two of your better players haven't been vaccinated.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a concern just based off of the way that the league is writing the protocols. And really, I mean, they're forcing players to get vaccinated without forcing them to get vaccinated, right? And regardless of where you stand on the vaccination thing, politically, whatever, none of that really matters. We just know that players who are not vaccinated are being treated with much more strenuous punishments, essentially, if they come in contact, right? And so there's a good chance that those guys are going to miss time because of COVID protocols alone. Let's not even talk about the injuries that both Bosa and Verrett really have shown extensive histories of. So you add in COVID, like it's a guarantee at this point. Pretty much, if I'm betting a house, I am betting that Verrett is for sure missing time this year. And when that happens, what happens to the secondary? It's definitely worrisome. And, on a personal level, listen, you make your own decisions. You're an adult, you're an athlete. That's not what I'm here to say is, oh, you should get vaccinated or you're an idiot. Like, that's not my stance. My stance is just simply, if you're not vaccinated, you're going to be treated differently. And you have to know that part of it. And knowing that part, we should expect one, if not both of these guys to miss a little bit of time due to COVID protocols.
Yeah. And where it really gets, it could be scary is, with the NFL came out and did, as part of this is if you can't field the team because you have an outbreak of COVID, you forfeit the game. And, imagine if the 49ers are in a situation where they're getting ready, maybe in a playoff run and something happens. And I'm not pointing out just these two guys because this is a situation that's really interesting. And we're not going to get too deep into it because neither one of us are doctors. We're just going off of what we hear, right?
For sure.
But it's a scary situation because even if you've been vaccinated, even if there's still this Delta variant that's out there. And so at least that's what they call it. And you're just seeing so much about people that have been vaccinated or are catching this thing like crazy still. Yeah. And, if it'd just be a shame for, somebody that's not vaccinated to bring the team down or even have an out, or maybe bring it in and what have you. If a team loses a game because of it and both teams lose paychecks, that would just be a really rough situation for the 49ers or any of these teams across the NFL.
What's crazy though is just the stronghold that the NFL is putting on teams and people about this. And this is what makes it hard is, they said if they can't reschedule the game, you had how many games that you were able to reschedule last year? So to make it sound like you can't reschedule a game or that's the threat that you're putting out there, that's a strong arm move. And it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, the NFL, regardless of what you think, is a business, and they can make their own rules as a business. And when they have these rules in place, agree with them or disagree with them, just know that if you are deciding not to get vaccinated, you are definitely taking a calculated risk, not only for you, but your teammates and ultimately your team's win-loss record. And that's what makes it tough.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that way for I know for the reporters, all the reporters have to be vaccinated before they can be in contact with the team. That was put out about a month or two ago before even this whole thing came down from the NFL with the players. So it's a tricky situation all the way across the board. It really is.
For sure. It really is. Yep.
Yep. Were there any other questions or any other things maybe that came up out of the first couple of days of training camp that kind of caught your eye?
Was there what? Sorry, I didn't catch up.
Oh, was there anything else that kind of has come up now in the last, in the first 3 days of training camp, two practices, and the initial day where there was the interviews that's kind of caught your attention?
Yeah, nothing, really eye popping. I guess the one thing that was a little bit disappointing for me, and when I was on 95.7 The Game, they asked me about who is the player that I'm most excited about, and I said Ambry Thomas as far as rookies go, and I said Ambry Thomas because I thought with Mosley out due to COVID protocols that he would really get into that number 2 corner spot and he would solidify himself, or at least that's what I was hoping for. And I was excited to see it play out either way. And he's done the absolute opposite of that. So again, I know when you, myself, and Sunil were on, I said, well, what if going into next year, this team doesn't re-sign Verrett, they don't re-sign K'Wan Williams, and Ambry Thomas or Lenore or both don't pan out? And he's like, wow, that's super doomsday, yada, yada. Listen, at the end of the day, Ambry Thomas was picked very late. Lenore was picked very late for talented corners. Most corners don't pan out when they're picked as late as those guys were. So to see them struggle, it's frustrating. I was hoping that Ambry would show us a little bit more. And again, this doesn't mean that he's going to not be a good corner eventually, but at the very least, it's going to take some time to prove that. And if he's the first guy off the bench, and by the way, you can tell the 49ers are concerned because what came out today, Dre Kirkpatrick is in for tryouts. Why is that? Because they were hoping that they could trust Ambry Thomas to be that first guy off the bench. And it looks like they were a little bit ahead of themselves when it came to that. And so now they are looking for a veteran option that can come in and possibly be that third player and bolster that unit. So it's a little upsetting, a little concerning, just something to keep an eye on and monitor.
Yeah, no, that is definitely something that is a concern. The good thing is there were only 2 days into practice, so
for sure.
And it's the first two practices. I know that the reports from the OTAs and the mini camp that they did have with the rookies was really positive, but that was also him going up against the rookies, right? So now he's actually going up against the better, professional level wide receivers, and even Mohamed Sanu, I think, got the better of him today. So. Yeah, it's definitely something to be concerned with, and even the rookies overall, I think, are struggling outside of Trey Lance, kind of from what I've heard. You've got Trey Sermon had some issues holding on the ball today. You've got Aaron Banks having some trouble in pass protection, which would be really scary if that's the case because he was so good at that in college. So yeah, it's and then you have the Thomas thing. So there's definitely some reason to be concerned early on, but fortunately we still have 6, almost 7 weeks before week 1 starts.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's plenty of time for him to bounce back, but he definitely isn't as good as early on as what a lot of us had hoped for, and that's myself included. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think we were both really high on that hype train for Ambry Thomas, right?
For sure.
So definitely something that might have caught us both by attention a little bit. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I have for tonight.
Hey, good first show back. I'm so happy that we were able to make it happen again. Like I said, 1 week felt like a month. It was way too long. So excited that we're able to get this going. I'm so excited that training camp is here, and that means the season's right around the corner. just excited that we're getting back to some Niner football. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. This is we're now getting to this part where we're not going to have to even try to come up with anything, right? Like this show is easy for us to put together because the fingers are making the
Yeah.
news for us, left and right now. So I can't wait. I can't wait till the season gets started and we have games to break down and all kinds of other fun stuff. So thanks for jumping on, Jesse, and doing all the great stuff you always do with us. And thanks to all the folks that joined live. And if you're watching this outside, just subscribe to my channel. Jesse's channel is in the description as well, so subscribe to that one. And I have a link to the 49ers Insider with the Press Democrat in the description, as well as the All 49ers website as well. So
That's awesome. Hey, and if you haven't had enough football today, tune into my channel in about 12 minutes. We are going live. We're going to be talking all things training camp around the NFL. So listen, if you haven't had enough, tune in, check it out.
there you go. Awesome. Have a great night, everybody, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye bye.